Welcome in, everyone, to Lively Lewis Stories.
That's right, we're back with even more awesome adventures with Levi and Ivy.
Set your storytime meter to fun and get ready to join the Lively Lewis crew.
All you need is your imagination and...
Off we go!
I can't wait to see where our story takes us today.
Have you ever wanted to get more Lively Lewis in your life?
Well, we've got you covered.
Grab an adult and zoom over to livelylewisshop.com.
Or just click on the link in our show notes.
Enough about that. Let's get to today's super Lively Lewis story.
All right, we have a few shout outs for today's episode. Genevieve, Aubrey, Sarah, Lauren, Ellie and Jefferson, Adrian. Thank you guys so much for the love. We so love reading your guys' story ideas and feedback. So we hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy this story. Levi, are you getting ready for school? Called Levi's mom one morning from the kitchen as she packed his lunch. We can't be late again, Levi. Do you hear me? We can't be late again. Do you hear me? Levi's mom was growing impatient and decided to walk upstairs to see what was taking him so long. Levi, I said, do you hear me? Said his mom, sounding less than pleased that she had to walk all the way upstairs. When she got to Levi's doorway, she watched as her son was lost in a world of make-believe, pretending he was a Pokemon trainer. This may seem unusual to some, but not to Levi's mom, and certainly not to Levi. Lately, he'd been obsessed with Pokemon. Watching the Pokemon TV show, playing Pokemon video games, trading Pokemon cards with his friends, and trying his hardest to become a real Pokemon trainer like Ash. Levi, I hope your training session is going well. I really do, but you have to eat breakfast and get to school, said Levi's mom as she walked into his room. Levi finally acknowledged her being there and turned around. However, his response was not quite what she wanted to hear at that moment, but she knew what to expect. Come on, Levi, let's head downstairs, she said. Pika? Levi said in a low voice as his mom just stared at him, knowing what was coming next. Pika? He went on. Levi, don't, urged his mom as the time to leave for school got closer and closer. But Levi couldn't help himself as he was so caught up in his pretend Pokemon universe. Pikachu! Exclaimed Levi as he ran around the room and then down the hallway. She followed him downstairs in the kitchen with a sigh. I thought that's what Pikachu says, and aren't you supposed to be a trainer? She asked, trying to play along. She wanted to encourage Levi's love of Pokemon and his growing imagination, but she also felt it was getting a little bit out of hand. Levi would communicate in Pokemon speak throughout the day, while his mom, dad, and sister just politely nodded as he tried to carry on full conversations with them. He would often ask to eat berry bowls like many of the Pokemon eat, but recently he suggested that they change their dog's name to Charizard, and his mom had to draw the line. Levi, it's great that you like Pokemon so much, but you do understand that it's not real, right? She asked, not wanting to hurt his feelings. I mean, it's fun to pretend you're a Pokemon trainer in video games or talk like Pikachu with your friends, but I think you really need to concentrate a little bit more on your schoolwork and helping at home. Levi knew exactly what his mom was referring to regarding his schoolwork. When he showed her his latest history test, she wasn't happy with the grade or the fact that his answer to the question, who was the first president of the United States, was Dragonite. Pika? Levi began in a soft voice before he said, I know, Mom. I just really love the way playing Pokemon makes me feel. Being a trainer would be amazing. Just imagine exploring a newly discovered Pokemon region, maybe one of the faraway islands, and using my Pokeball to recruit and then train the greatest collection of Pokemon that the world had ever seen. Levi was so excited when he talked about Pokemon, his mom could not be mad at him. However, she knew he had to step back into reality, his reality, more often than not, and do the things that Levi, the little boy, needed to do, instead of only thinking of what Levi, the Pokemon trainer, wanted to do. Levi, that all sounds wonderful, but what about the soccer practice and riding bikes with Ivy and your friends or helping Dad rake leaves in the backyard? Began his mom. These are all things you've been avoiding or not doing because you're so wrapped up with your Pokemon. The giant smile that spread across Levi's face when he spoke about his next Pokemon quest quickly turned to a frown when the reality of his mom's words finally sunk in. Maybe she's right, he thought to himself at that moment. Maybe I'll never be a Pokemon trainer. Maybe it's all just make-believe. Maybe I should forget all about Pokemon. The more Levi thought about it, the sadder he got. As he sat at the kitchen table pushing his cereal around his bowl, he had remembered he had put something special in his pocket to take to school. It was his most prized possession, his mint condition Pikachu Pokemon card. As he looked at the card, the smile returned to his face. Even if his mom didn't believe he could be a Pokemon trainer, he believed it, and that's all that mattered. But to make her feel like he was listening, Levi said, "You're right, Mom. I'm going to cut back on Pokemon from now on. I'll concentrate on school more and even go bike riding with Ivy when we get home this afternoon." "Wow, that's great to hear, bud," said his mom. "And I'm not saying you should get rid of all your Pokemon stuff or stop pretending to be a trainer or never play the card game again. I'm just saying give it a break, just for a bit." Levi nodded and grabbed his book bag. "Come on, Ivy, it's time for school." Levi called out to his sister who was playing in the playroom as she waited for her brother. "Levi, don't forget your new Wiggly Pop sweatshirt," called out his mom, tossing a sweatshirt at him as he stood by the door. Levi laughed before correcting his mom. "The character is called Jigglypuff, Mom, not Wiggly Pop." "Sorry, all those names are hard to keep track of," said his mom with a giggle. "But I'd never forget Bubblesaurus. He's my favorite." Levi almost couldn't speak because he was laughing so hard at that mispronunciation. "Mom, it's Bulbasaur, but thanks for trying. We'll see you after school," called out Levi as he and Ivy walked out the front door. The whole day at school, Levi was more distracted than ever. After the talk with his mom, he was even more determined than ever to prove to her that he could be a Pokemon trainer. He tried his hardest to concentrate while in class, but as soon as school was over, he grabbed his things and headed home with Ivy. "Ivy, do you think I could be a Pokemon trainer?" asked Levi as they walked to their front yard. "If there's one thing I know for sure, it's that if anyone in this neighborhood was going to be a Pokemon trainer, it would 100% be you, Levi," answered Ivy with a giggle. "You know more about Pokemon than Ash Ketchum, and that's the truth. I think you can do anything you set your mind to. And if you do get to be a trainer one day, can you make sure Evie is on your team? She's my favorite." Levi smiled at his sister, happy that she believed in him and excited to show her that he could really do it someday. When they got home, Levi did just what he told his mom he'd do before he left that morning. He rode bikes with Ivy and even helped his dad rake leaves in the backyard before he practiced a little soccer. Then, after all of that, he headed inside to do his homework and eat dinner. "No Pokemon at all today?" questioned Levi's mom with a smile over dinner. "That must have been tough for you. So I think you deserve a little Pokemon time now. Why don't you watch a Pokemon episode or play one of your video games? Maybe you could be my favorite character, Salamander." "Mom, I think you mean Charmander," laughed Ivy. "Even I know that one." "Oh, right, Charmander," she said, correcting herself. "I told Levi I could never keep the names of those little cuties straight." "Thanks, Mom, but I'm all good," replied Levi. "I think I'm just going to head to bed after I read for a little bit." But what Levi really meant was that he was going to his room to continue his Pokemon trainer training. If he wanted to be like Ash Ketchum one day, he had to work extra hard. "Okay, Levi, but I didn't mean you had to stop doing all the Pokemon things you love," said his mom, feeling as if she was too harsh with Levi earlier that morning. "No, Mom, I understand. I think I needed a little break too," said Levi. Levi cleared his plate from the table and headed up to his room with Ivy close behind. "Are you really taking a break from Pokemon, Levi?" she asked, sounding really surprised. "Not a chance," answered Levi. "I'm still training to be the greatest Pokemon trainer the world has ever seen. It's just that Mom thinks I'm concentrating a little too much on it, so I decided not to tell her. One day when I'm leading an unstoppable group of Pokemon into battle, then she'll see that all the hard work was for and be really proud of me." "But Levi, Mom is proud of you no matter what you do," said Ivy. "Never forget that." Levi nodded to his sister before heading into his room. He grabbed his favorite Pikachu stuffed toy and hugged it so close as he sat on the bed. "You believe that I can be a Pokemon trainer, right, Pikachu?" Levi asked the stuffed toy. It didn't answer back, but Levi knew in his heart that Pikachu and all the other Pokemon were rooting for him to reach his goal. Levi yawned after having quite a long day and decided to just head to bed rather than training that night. As he drifted off to sleep, Levi held his Pikachu tight, thinking of all the amazing Pokemon dreams he could have. Dreams where Mewtwo, Snorlax, and Rayquaza were all his friends. Where he trained side by side with Ash Ketchum and his mom could see that it wasn't all make-believe. She would see that he had what it took to be a great Pokemon trainer, and she would never question his love of Pokemon ever again. Well, that night something amazing happened, and something that Levi would never forget. As he held onto his Pikachu toy, he wished that he would wake up in a world where Pokemon were real. And maybe it was his dedication to the Pokemon world or that his wish was so honest and sincere. But the next day, when Levi opened his eyes, he found out his wish had come true. And that's the conclusion of part 1 of Levi's Pokemon adventure. And coming soon will be part 2. So stay tuned. Want to start a podcast? Spotify has an easy free platform called Spotify for Podcasters. Here's how it works. Record and edit your podcast on your phone or computer with ease. Share your podcast on Spotify and all other major platforms. You can even make video podcasts on Spotify. If you want to engage with your audience more, use Q&A and polls. You can earn money through ads and podcast subscriptions. It's completely free, no hidden cost. Give it a try. Visit www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. We love making our podcast, and working with Spotify has been amazing. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the story and learned a little something too.
And since we know everyone has their own story, we'd love to hear yours.
If you have an idea for a Lively Lewis story, leave a comment on our Apple Podcast review page with 5 stars, your idea, and your little one's name.
Then maybe our next adventure will be with you.
Until our next Storytime Hangout.
Thanks for listening. We can't wait to share another fun, Lively Lewis story with you.